Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We have a lot to talk about today, such as the Rams getting taken down by the Dolphins. How did they lose to Tua Tagovailoa in his NFL debut? What just happened with Jared Goff? And the Chargers continue to disappoint. A 21-point lead demolished as they lose to the Denver Broncos in the Mile High City. What must be done in order for the Chargers to beat the Ravens? San Diego State, on the other hand, goes to 2-0 with another dominating victory over their Mountain West opponent. Can they beat San Jose State tonight? And USC and UCLA get their season off tomorrow in college football. Will the Trojans be able to live up to their expectations? And will the Bruins maybe play spoiler? And the LA Galaxy are eliminated from playoff contention. Sad, sad, sad. What just happened with them? And LAFC also took an L this week as they lost to San Jose. What will I be saying about them? All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. My name is Teran Rodriguez, and happy Friday to you all. Hope everyone is having a great start to the weekend, and definitely want to give a shout out to everyone who's indoors and who's staying cool, because in Southern California, it's appearing like it's going to rain. It may rain tonight, and it'll for sure rain tomorrow, so definitely stay dry and stay cool. Want to give a shout to the chat room, Andrew Hagenbaugh, for stopping by in the chat room. I appreciate you tuning in. So we have a lot to get into, and I definitely want to fill you all in. So, seeing as, well, let's start off with the MLB. So, the MLB issued a statement about Justin Turner and everything. And about everything of what happened last week. So, obviously it wasn't smart for Justin Turner to go onto the field after he was told to be quarantined. And then he eventually made a post on how it was wrong and how he should have thought better when it came to going out onto the field and putting everybody at risk. And he publicly apologized, and also the MLB released a statement as well as from Commissioner Rob Manfred. And surprisingly enough, Manfred and the MLB have chosen not to punish the Dodgers or Justin Turner for that matter. So I guess it's a good thing. No Dodgers players came out with COVID-19 or anyone else. And apparently Justin Turner is fine, and he also gave back to the community, to Los Angelinos as well. So overall, it's good that he didn't get in trouble, and luckily he understood what the situation was, and he owned up to it, and it was good that he was able to do that. So, all in all, all's well that ends well. He just needs to be careful next time, and luckily for the Dodgers, they didn't get slapped with any fines, or they didn't lose any draft picks, and it's good for Justin Turner and the Dodgers. I'm not overly against the MLB. I'm not going to complain about Justin Turner not getting a punishment. Like, the fact that he got off scot-free is pretty amazing. Like, I think most players would probably at least get a fine or something along those lines. Either way, Good. Thank you to the MLB. I mean, some people aren't really happy. Some people think that he should have gotten fined or he should be suspended. But I think it should have just been a fine and whatnot. But I'm glad Justin Turner it didn't get too much punished. Like, I think if someone got COVID as well and it had something to do with Turner being on the field, then maybe there would have been a punishment. But all's well that ends well. So either way, we've moved on from the MLB. We won't be talking about them until the Angels or Dodgers make a big splash, or the Padres for that matter. So let's briefly go over the NBA as well. The NBA has agreed to start their season on December 22nd, which is cool. Which I thought it was going to be a lot later. I thought it was going to be in January of 2021. Either way, basketball will be coming back sooner rather than later, because that's not too far. December 22nd isn't too far away. That's like a 1 month and 16 day span from now. So that's some good stuff. And I'm hearing that there could be possible season opening games, such as maybe the Lakers and the Clippers. It would be funny to see the Lakers against the Clippers and have the Lakers raise their championship banner. It would be. But there also could be other possible games like Denver versus the Clippers. Maybe Heat versus the Lakers. I hear the Heat-Lakers game might be on Christmas Day and whatnot. So, who knows? We'll see what happens. So, either way, I am excited, but we're not going to dive too much into that. So, yeah. So, now let's move on to some NFL action where the Los Angeles Rams, oh my gosh, the Los Angeles Rams really disappointed last week against the Miami Dolphins. So, this was Tua Tagovailoa's first ever start, and at first the Rams were doing a good job. Like, Aaron Donald welcomed him to the NFL by forcing a fumble, which eventually led to a Robert Woods rushing touchdown. But that was kind of the only good thing the Rams did, because other than that, Jared Goff looked so sloppy. He looked like he was in his rookie form. He was fumbling the ball or getting his passes intercepted. And then the Dolphins eventually got a special teams touchdown. And it's like, what did the Dolphins have for breakfast? And how did the Rams just look so terrible? Like, I couldn't believe it. I don't know if the Rams were just looking too far ahead to their bye, but they just looked sloppy. I give the Rams defense credit because they held the Dolphins scoreless in the second half, but they couldn't produce a whole lot of points in the second half themselves. All they got was a late fourth quarter touchdown, which I don't know. I think this losing 28-17 kind of is concerning because the Rams looked so good against the Bears. Like, they look pretty good against the Bears, like, for the most part. And then to lay an egg on the road against the Dolphins, it's a little underwhelming. It's losses like that could cost you in a tough division like the NFC West, because not only did the Rams lose, their opponents, their rivals, the Seattle Seahawks, who they play next week, beat the San Francisco 49ers as well. And also the Rams have fallen behind the Arizona Cardinals. So either way, I'm a little distraught. Like, it's good that the Rams are 5-3, and I think they're still exceeding most people's expectations. But honestly, you lose to a quarterback who is making his first ever NFL start, and we're like halfway through the season, and the Rams are now halfway through their season. So I just think that leaves a bad taste in most Rams fans' mouths, because I definitely think the Rams are so much better than what the Dolphins depicted. Maybe it was because they faced a Brian Flores coach team, and Brian Flores was the defensive coordinator of the New England Patriots, which wound up winning Super Bowl, what was it, 53? Yeah, 53, when the Patriots beat the Rams that year in the Super Bowl. So either way, I just think that was a very questionable loss for the Rams. And the Rams can't even point the finger at ref ball, because it was a pretty well called game for the most part. It's just that the Rams didn't bother showing up. So overall, I just think that the Rams have a lot of work to do. And again, their schedule gets tougher from here on out. So luckily for them, they do have the bye, which is a good thing. They could just use that to probably heal up and just lick their wounds and see where they'll be at come next week. But next week, the Rams play a very tough game against the Seahawks. I believe it's at a SoFi, and apparently the Rams are favored by 1 point, which I don't believe. Like, there's no way the Rams are favored by 1 point. Like, I definitely think the Seahawks are probably going to thrash them. Adam Karnick, shout out to Adam Karnick in the chat room saying, were the Dolphins a trap game? Absolutely. I definitely think that was indeed a trap game. And I think I even talked about how the Dolphins were a trap game, because the Dolphins, while they don't have the best record, they still have ambitions of possible playoffs. Like, they're not, with how bad the AFC East is, they kind of are on the borderline of playoffs. Like, with the Patriots being bad, and the Jets being the Jets, and then the Bills having inconsistencies, I think the Dolphins were indeed a trap game. And I definitely think the Rams got jebaited, and honestly, I couldn't believe it. And this is going to be an even bigger kick to the shin if the Cardinals beat the Dolphins, which I definitely think can happen, because the Cardinals are definitely an improved team, with Kyler Murray leading the charge, and then DeAndre Hopkins at wide receiver. Sure, the Cardinals are going to be without Kenyon Drake, which would have been a great homecoming game for him, since he played some of his games in Miami, and he eventually got traded. But I still think the Cardinals can still beat the Dolphins, because they're an improved team, and Chase Edmonds is probably going to be taking the snaps, and he will be. Like a matter of fact, the Cardinals could probably be undefeated at this point had it not been for losses to the Panthers and the Lions. So overall, you kind of have to wonder if you're the Rams. Like, you need every win possible, because in a competitive division like the NFC West, you cannot afford to lose games that you're supposed to be winning, especially against a rookie quarterback who is making his first ever start. So that's just a disappointment on the Rams end. And like I said, the schedule just gets tougher going forward for the Rams, because after the Seahawks, the Rams. Oh no, the Rams. They play the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football, which they're facing Tom Brady, and the Bucs are pretty hot as well, especially with adding Antonio Brown. And then the Rams also play the 49ers the week after the Bucs, and obviously the 49ers are beaten up, but Jimmy G has not lost to the Rams ever since as a starter, so you have to factor that in. And then the Rams play the Cardinals after the 49ers. It's at Arizona. Then they play the Patriots, which could be do or die for the Patriots, considering their season has been a roller coaster. And it's a Thursday night football game against the Patriots. The Jets will be an easy win. That's probably going to be the only breather for the Rams. But then the Rams finished up the season at Seattle and then at home against Arizona. And Arizona's got ambitions of playoffs as well. I had the Cardinals as my team to watch for in the NFC, and funnily enough, I had the Dolphins as my team to watch for in the AFC. So overall, I think the Rams are kind of put themselves in a not so good situation. I think they still could make the playoffs, but now every game is precious for them, and they cannot afford to look ahead to anyone or look past anyone. So overall, I just think that this was last Sunday's loss was just a bad loss on the Rams' part. Like, Jared Goff knows he could be better, because Jared Goff looked like he was playing under Jeff Fisher again. So I don't know, man. So the Rams have a lot of soul searching to do. Maybe this loss ignites them, and it's the turning point that they need going forward. So we'll see what the Rams could do. But to me, I think the Rams, like, it's too early to make a prediction for Rams-Seahawks because the Seahawks don't have Chris Carson, and I don't know what's going to be happening with Carlos Hyde or Travis Homer, or heck, they even might play DJ Dallas again. And the Seahawks still have another tough game of their own as they play the Bills this week. So Rams are probably going to be keeping their eyes on that as well. So we'll see how it goes for the Rams. So that's pretty much the discussion of the Rams. Now for the Chargers. Oh my gosh. Just when I thought the Chargers were done blowing leads, they do this. They built a 24-3 lead against the Denver Broncos, and then they eventually lost 31-30. I don't think I've ever been so disgusted at a Chargers loss like that ever since maybe since they lost to the Ravens on Ray Rice's Hey Diddle Diddle, Ray Rice up the middle. Like, it's losses like these to like the Bucks, the Saints, and the Broncos that could wind up killing your quarterback's confidence, let alone the team's confidence. And it's losses like those that could pretty much get a coach fired or a defensive coordinator fired. And Adam says, silly Teran, the Chargers are never done blowing leads. Yeah, I totally agree. And it wouldn't surprise me if they lost to the Raiders this week. But again, recapping the Chargers game in a nutshell, Herbert threw 3 touchdowns. He didn't quite eclipse the 300 passing yard mark, which is sad, but he also threw 2 interceptions, which eventually turned into 10 Broncos points. The second interception wasn't ultimately his fault. He was trying to go for Mike Williams, and normally on an everyday basis, Mike Williams is 50-50. Whenever Justin Herbert throws those 50-50 balls to Mike Williams just snags it away from the defender, and it's a touchdown. This time, I think Justin Herbert threw it a little too low, and Williams wasn't able to get it. So, and eventually that wound up turning into a rushing touchdown from Phillip Lindsay. It was either a rushing touchdown for Phillip Lindsay or a eventual go-ahead touchdown from I forget who it was. I think it was KJ Hamler or something along those lines. Either way, it wound up igniting the Broncos back in the game because they eventually got a touchdown on that drive. And then, to my surprise, Michael Badgley. This was probably the biggest positive of today of the Chargers' loss to the Broncos. Michael Badgley didn't miss a field goal or an extra point. He went 3 for 3 for field goals and 3 for 3 on extra points, which was surprising because he had been struggling throughout most of the season. So eventually the Chargers built their 7-point lead was built up to a 10-point lead. Then the Chargers make, I don't know, I think it was Nasir Adderley makes one of the dumbest decisions ever, and he hits a Broncos player late out of bounds, and that's an extra 15 yards, and then eventually Drew Lock turns that into a touchdown. And then suddenly the Chargers' 10-point lead was trimmed down to a 3-point lead, and then Michael Badgley hit another field goal, which gave the Chargers a 6-point lead with around 2 or so minutes to go. And I think before the field goal happened, I think Joey Bosa left with a concussion. He was being checked out for concussion protocol, and that kind of wound up being big because eventually Drew Lock was able to drive down the field. And eventually, the Broncos got to the 1-yard line, and then Drew Lock hit his man. I definitely think it was like KJ Hamler for the touchdown. I think KJ Hamler caught the game-winning touchdown, and then I think one of the other Broncos touchdowns came from a tight end named Andrew O. His last name is so hard to pronounce, I'm not even going to bother it. Like, even Greg Gumbel couldn't even pronounce Andrew O's last name. So, either way, the Chargers lost. I was so disappointed. Like, it's like, come on now. Really? Like, it was one thing with the Bucks because they are a talented team with, like, Mike Evans and Tom Brady and Ronald Jones. It was one thing with the Saints because it was a primetime game, and the Saints had Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara and Jared Cook. But to the Broncos, it's like this was supposed to be winnable. Like, you can't lose games like this. And now the Chargers have lost eight divisional matchups in a row dating back to last season. And the funny thing is that the Chargers' last divisional win was against the Broncos at Denver, which that's just icing on the cake on how the Chargers blew that game. And they made Drew Lock look like John Elway or Peyton Manning. Like, that's just how disappointing the loss was. So, and I kind of even question if, again, I question if Gus Bradley should be fired, the defensive coordinator. And a shout out to Marcus Losgreat, who's joining us in the chat room tonight. Thank you for joining us in the chat room, my brother. It really means a lot. So, either way, so back to the Chargers. I just don't understand how they continue to just choke away leads, especially to the Broncos, because losing to the Broncos, like, nothing against the Broncos and nothing against Drew Lock, they deserved that win, and they earned that win quite nicely. Like, it got to the point where, I think it was in the first half, where Broncos fans were booing Drew Lock and calling for him to be benched, and that's pretty funny, because you're booing your own quarterback, and you're booing the team, and you're calling Drew Lock to be benched. Like, come on now. Like, I wouldn't ask for Herbert to be benched for Easton Stick. Woo! But either way, I think Broncos fans need to be a little bit more patient, and they kind of forgot the whole thing. And I totally get the Broncos fans' frustrations, but still, I thought that booing them was a little, if you ask me, because you just gotta have patience, because football's a 4-quarter game. Like, I can understand them booing at the end of the game, or booing after a pick six, which has the Chargers up like 1,000,000 to like 3. But again, in the second half, you don't boo them. But maybe that the booing was what motivated the Broncos to getting the win. So, and Philip Lindsay and spoke about that, which yeah. So, but this isn't about the Broncos. This is about the Chargers. The good thing is that Justin Herbert continued to make history, as according to, I believe it was CBS Sports on. Well, before I get into the to Justin Herbert's Twitter, the Chargers were running coverage. I think it was coverage 3 or a zone defense, which that has been getting picked apart for almost every week. And the Chargers defense has just been so lackluster. I get they don't have Derwin James or Drew Tranquill or Chris Harris Jr., but the Chargers defense as a whole has just regressed. And I will also say this. I think if Bosa didn't get hurt, I think the Chargers would win that game easy, because Bosa was putting so much pressure on Drew Lock. Like, I think that was kind of the saving grace for the Broncos. I'm not going to say that truly mattered, but I think losing a player like Bosa defensively is what would kill your defense, because Bosa's a talented player, and to lose him is a big punch to the gut. So I'm not making too many excuses, but I will say losing Bosa really mattered for the Chargers, because their defense is already depleted. So once again, so to the Justin Herbert history, Justin Herbert became the first quarterback in NFL history to throw 1,500 or more passing yards and having 15 or more touchdowns in his first 6 games of his career, which is quite impressive. I didn't know that stat, and it's like, oh, okay. And the fact that he's the first quarterback to do that is quite amazing. Also, according to NFL on CBS, the list of and that was courtesy of NFL on CBS, being Justin Herbert being the first NFL quarterback in history with 1,500 plus passing yards and 15 plus passing touchdowns in his first 6 games. So that's good. And not even Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady did that. But it still would have been great to see the Chargers win, because now that loss is kind of a momentum killer. Because even though they didn't play the greatest game against Jacksonville, it would have been great to go back home on a 2-game winning streak, because you're playing another AFC West rival. And it's just a frustrating thing. And even Kenneth Murray, the Chargers' rookie linebacker, was disappointed, and he kind of became a meme. And he's always like that. And apparently, he's always like that whenever his team loses. And he has the right mindset. He hates losing more than he loves winning. And even Drew Tranquill came out and said something on Twitter, and he says that they're going to eventually figure this out. I hope they do. I hope the Chargers do figure this out. I think it would probably be starting with... Now, here's the thing about Anthony Lynn. I'm just going to say this. I don't think the Chargers should fire Anthony Lynn right away. I think they should let Anthony Lynn coach the rest of the season. It's crazy because Anthony Lynn hasn't been the greatest coach. But if the Chargers fire Anthony Lynn in the middle of the season while Justin Herbert's playing quarterback, that to me, I think, would rattle his confidence, and that would force him to have to adapt to a new coach, which I think that wouldn't be convenient on his part. You can get away with that in terms of certain other quarterbacks, like Matt Ryan in Atlanta when they fired Dan Quinn, or Deshaun Watson when they fired Bill O'Brien, and I was going to also say Dak Prescott and Dallas when they fired Jason Garrett, but the Cowboys lost that game to the Rams. Marcus says that Anthony Lynn should not be fired, and I agree. I think they should at least give Anthony Lynn the rest of the season, and then depending on what happens, at worst, he would probably be fired on the NFL's version of Black Friday. In other words, the Monday after the regular season. And Marcus also says, they are rebuilding, give the man a chance to rebuild the program. I agree. And Anthony Lynn is not a bad coach. I actually like Anthony Lynn and his backstory. I'm willing to... and one thing I liked about Anthony Lynn after the game was he said this loss... He apologized to the fans. He said, this loss is on me. And it's like, okay... Well, and I'm the type of guy who is willing to accept apologies. And the fact that he did that was like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, okay. And here's the thing about Anthony Lynn. We look at Anthony Lynn through the years. He's only with his 4th year with the Chargers. The first year was a little shaky. The Chargers got off to an 0-4 start, but they eventually finished 9-7. And they eventually missed the playoffs due to tiebreaker. The Bills and the Titans got in, which was disappointing. Which was disappointing because the Chargers had kicking issues to start the season. Ugh. And then the next year, the Chargers were 12-4. They tied for the AFC West title. Unfortunately, they had to play a wild card game, and they beat the Ravens, denying Lamar Jackson of that eventual elusive playoff win, and then they got stomped on by the Patriots because the Patriots are just good and they play at Foxborough. So that was still a good year. I want to say Anthony Lynn got Coach of the Year that year. I'm not entirely certain, but I think certain members of the media were trying to vote Anthony Lynn as Coach of the Year because that's still pretty impressive. The only problem is the playoff structure because the Chiefs technically had the tiebreaker, but there were still some games the Chargers should have won, like the game against the Broncos where they eventually hit that go-ahead field goal. There was the game against the Ravens where Lamar Jackson just throttled them. Well, he didn't throttle them, but they showed that they're not going to go with Joe Flacco, a.k.a. Dr. Checkdown. And the Chiefs were a loss, and which was inevitable because they're the Chiefs, and the Rams also stuck it to them at the Coliseum because that team eventually made it to the Super Bowl. So that was Anthony Lynn's second year. The third year, the Chargers obviously struggled with Phillip Rivers and the fact that he didn't have an O-line and the fact that the Chargers kept losing close losses. Like, I don't think it was all on Anthony Lynn, though. Again, Rivers didn't have the best O-line, and he's not a mobile quarterback. Like, if Rivers we look at Phillip Rivers now with the Colts, he's got a better O-line, that's for sure. So he's having more success over there. And again, with a better O-line, I definitely think the Chargers would be better than what they were last year. Like, they had so many games where I definitely think they should have won. At the same time, Rivers kind of didn't do them any favors throwing into like double or triple coverage. So Chargers finished 5-11 that year, missed the playoffs, and they were dead last in the AFC West. So currently the Chargers are 2-5. All of their losses have come by one score or less. At least they're being competitive. Like, I knew the Chargers were going to be competitive, but I didn't think they'd be blowing leads and then eventually find themselves under 500. Like, it kind of makes you wish you'd rather lose a game by like a lot. Like, losing a heartbreaker makes you wish you'd rather lose by like a lot, because sometimes you would expect it. That's what a coach one time told me, but that's not the case. But I digress on that part. For the Chargers, I knew they were going to be somewhat competitive just because they have talent. They have talented players like Keenan Allen. Like, offensively, they have Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Hunter Henry, Mike Williams, Virgil Green, who's okay at tight end. They had Jalen Guyton, who's off and on. Justin Jackson, who was a solid tight end, or not tight end, running back too. And then they have some good offensive linemen, such as Try Turner, who we haven't really seen this season. We have Brian Bulaga, who made his start, I think he made his first or second start last week against the Broncos. And then they have other good offensive linemen, such as Forrest Lamp and whatnot. And then defensively, they have Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Derwin James, who's out for the year, Drew Tranquill, Justin Jones, Chris Harris, who they got in free agency, Casey Hayward, who has kind of regressed, and then Linval Joseph, who they got in free agency as well. And then, and also some more Chargers news is that the Chargers traded Desmond King to the Tennessee Titans for a 6th-round pick. Well, everyone is saying, why did they trade him for a 6th-round pick? At this point, if you're the Chargers, like, Desmond King was just not happy. Apparently he wasn't happy with Anthony Lynn, and apparently he was just not happy overall. At this point for the Chargers, they're just probably loading up on picks, but I kind of think he would have been better should have been traded for like a 5th rounder. But it is what it is. Like at this point, it is what it is for the Chargers. Like, they always make questionable decisions and things like that because they're the Chargers and they can't have good, and we can't have good things as fans. But yeah, back to Anthony Lynn. Again, I definitely do agree with Marcus, and I pretty much said it best. He should at least coach the rest of the year. Like, I don't want to see him get fired because I think he's a great guy, and maybe he should at least you should get a demotion. But if there's one person they gotta look at, it's probably Gus Bradley, because Chargers defense has looked pretty shoddy. I know this is accounted for being beaten up, but I kind of think it's been very questionable. Like, the Bengals, their defense didn't look bad even though they played a rookie quarterback. Against the Chiefs, it wasn't ultimately bad. I mean, the Chiefs eventually came back from the dead and won. The Panthers, they were pretty good in the second. They were eventually pretty good in the second half. Problem was that Herbert and Joshua Kelly kind of got rookie-itis and gave him like 3 turnovers. Gave the Panthers 3 turnovers. And then against the Bucks, they looked good until the second half. Against the Saints, the defense looked good until the second half. Against the Panthers, it looked okay. At first it looked good, and then they allowed Gardner Minshew to get back into the game until they came up with that fumble on the kickoff return, which eventually swung the momentum back to them. And there were some good moments. And last week against the Broncos, it was a good defense. I thought their defense was good, and they held the Broncos to, I think, only 2 rushing yards through 2.5 quarters, and then Philip Lindsay became a thing, and then he reignited the Broncos running game, and that was pretty much that. So, and then eventually Melvin Gordon caught an amazing pass, which was like in the later stages of the Broncos-Chargers game. So, I think if there's one person that may be on the hot seat for the Chargers, it's probably Gus Bradley. Like, I'm not saying, I mean, you're looking at these games, like, you let the Jaguars put 26 on you. Or, I'm sorry, 29. They put 29 on them, and then Denver dropped 31 on you, which I think 21 came in the fourth quarter, which is gag. And then, obviously, the Saints and the Bucks are the Saints and the Bucks. So, I think, for the most part, the defense in the second half needs to be better. Otherwise, Gus Bradley's going to be out of a defensive coordinator job. So, that's just me. So, this week, the Chargers play the Raiders. And it's a very tough game. Raiders are so much more improved. And I've been saying this all over Twitter. Like, I don't see the Chargers. I honestly don't see the Chargers beating the Raiders this week. Just because the Raiders are so much more improved than everyone gives them credit for. Obviously, they haven't been consistent. Like, they haven't beaten the Bills. They couldn't beat the Bills. They couldn't beat the Patriots. And I forget who else the Raiders lost to this year. Either way, they're. I think the Raiders are 4-3. Yeah, they're 4-3. I think 5-3 at that. But the Raiders have some impressive victories. Their wins over the Chiefs were really good. Their win over the Saints was impressive. And their win last weekend against the Browns was also good because I think that was a game that was a very tight game. And obviously Derek Carr does not play well in the cold weather. But the fact that he was able to put on his big boy pants and eventually lead the Raiders to a victory is quite impressive. I definitely got to give him credit for that. So, Raiders are 4-3, but I'm still blanking on their. They lost to the Bucks, but the Bucks are a very good team. Like, their 3 losses are to respectable teams, and their loss to the Patriots was before Cam Newton got COVID. So, other than that, I definitely see this being a very tough game for the Chargers, and even though it's not going to really matter if it's going to be played at SoFi or Allegiant Stadium. Like, there's not going to be any fans at either facility. Like, it is going to be played at SoFi Stadium, but to me, it's not going to matter because of no fans. At least the Chargers do get to return home. Their only problem is that the Raiders are familiar with being in Los Angeles. They're just used to having more fans. They're just used to having fans at the games. So to me, it's kind of a trick. This one's a kind of a tricky game. At one point, the Chargers could probably beat the Raiders, but Joey Bosa is doubtful for that game. Joey Bosa and Tromaine Pope are doubtful for that game. And also Casey Hayward is questionable with the non-related injury, and then without Joey Bosa, it just makes it 10 times tougher. So, to me, this one's kind of this one's a pick'em game. This one's 50-50. I think neither team is favored. And to me, I think Justin Herbert can have himself a big game. My only concern is the defense, and then what they can do when it comes to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is also questionable, but that's got to be priority number one, slowing down Josh Jacobs. And then they'll see what they can do with Derek Carr, because Derek Carr, to me, has been really impressive, and I think this is going to sound crazy, but heck, I think Derek Carr could be in the mix for MVP. I can't believe I'm saying that, but Derek Carr has the Raiders thinking playoffs, and they went through a tough stretch where most people had the Raiders not winning a whole lot of games. But they beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead, other than getting thrashed by the Bucs. And then they also beat the Browns at Cleveland, and then the rest of it, and then their next two games are pretty winnable, if you ask me. So, to me, this one's kind of a toss-up, and I can't believe I'm and it does my heart no good saying this, but I think the Raiders win. I think the Raiders beat the Chargers. I think the Raiders are well coached. They have a better defense, and they're just a better overall confident team. I hate not picking the Chargers this week, but I think the Raiders are just a better team. And I just think that, and again, Derek Carr wants to prove the haters wrong. And without Bosa, who's doubtful with a concussion, I just think it's just going to be so much tougher. Like, Melvin Ingram obviously Melvin Ingram hasn't been 100%, but he can't carry the defense all by himself, and neither can Jerry Tillery. So, to me, I think the Raiders win this one. It does my heart no good picking the Raiders to win because they are a rival of the Chargers, but I think the Raiders pull out this win. I think they win 31-27. Yeah, and that's my pick. Raiders beat the Chargers 31-27, and I think it's going to be another blown lead fashion. I think the Chargers build like a 14-point lead, and then Derek Carr finally gets it together. Josh Jacobs shakes off his slow start, and then he proves that his injury is basically nothing. And then I could see this getting a whole lot worse. I can see this being more high scoring, if you ask me, because without Joey Bosa and Casey Hayward, I see Derek Carr putting up more points because he does have good receivers like Nelson Aguilar, Henry Ruggs, who he needs to get more involved, Darren Waller at tight end. I could see him having a big breakout game because the Chargers have had rotten luck against tight ends. Like, they already allowed Jared Cook to have a big game, so, well, not like a big game, but a crucial game where he caught the game-tying touchdown. Hunter Renfrow is also a big-time player, or big-time receiver for the Raiders. And then, like I said, Josh Jacobs, if he's playing, should be able to run rampant because the Chargers' run defense, other than the first 2.5 quarters against the Broncos, look fascinatingly strong. Like, I just don't think the Chargers have the defense to stop Derek Carr and the Raiders. Like, again, it'll probably be another one-score loss for the Chargers, but I just think the Raiders pull this one off. I think the Raiders win 31-27, like I said. So, I'm just going to say the early congratulations to the Raiders. But, who knows, maybe I'll look back on this and say, well, this didn't age well. And, who knows, maybe I'll be giving the Chargers some bulletin board material. So, they're probably not going to listen to this. Or at least some Chargers stands. One good thing that came out of the Chargers loss, another good thing that came out of the Chargers loss from last week was that Justin Herbert was named Rookie of the Week. Surprisingly, because he had 2 interceptions as well, and his team didn't get the win. So at least Herbert is doing good, and hopefully he keeps it together and he's able to finish off the year, and he can get offensive or AFC Offensive Rookie of the Year because he's the only bright spot for the Chargers this year. I'm just saying. But overall, Herbert's having a great season. I hope he continues to have a great season. I definitely think he can put up the points. I just hope he doesn't make too many miscues because the Raiders have a solid defense. It's an improved defense. Everyone bags on Paul Gunther, but I think the Raiders' defense has been solid this year. And I say the word solid quite loosely because they have given up a substantial amount of points in most of their games. Like, they gave up, I think, around 30 to the Panthers. I think it was like 30 or so to the Panthers. I think they gave up 30 plus to the Bills. They held the Saints to I think 22 or something like that. I'm already on the ESPN site as is. Yeah, they gave up 30 to the Panthers, 24 to the Saints, 36 to the Patriots, 30 to the Bills, 32 to the Chiefs, and 45 to the Bucs. So, other than certain games, I think the Raiders' defense is okay. The thing about the Raiders is that I think the Raiders' offense is what scares me because the Chargers' defense is beaten up to high heaven, and I just don't see how the Jack Boys will be able to keep up with an offensive-orientated team such as the Raiders. I think this could be Derek Carr's best game, best game of the season. I definitely think the Chargers are going to make Derek Carr look like a god. I think that's pouring a little too much hot sauce on the burrito, but that's just what I think. Either way, I still have the Raiders winning. But who knows? Maybe I'll look back on this and then I'll say, well, this didn't age well. Because more times than not, a whole lot of my things don't age well. So, we'll see. But I think that's going to do it for the NFL portion of this show. I might as well just keep it football related and talk about college football. Then we'll take ourselves a quick little water break to give my voice a little bit of a rest. So, San Diego State is still unbeaten. They beat, I want to say it was Utah State. Either way, they crushed whoever they played last. Yeah, Utah State. They beat them 38-7. It wasn't even close. Yeah. As Carson Baker led the Aztecs with two passing touchdowns, 163 yards, and he was 18 for 27, which is cool, I guess. And then what seems to be the calling for San Diego State is their running game, as Greg Bell had 157 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and 22 carries, which is cool. And Bell also had 29 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown, and 2 receptions, while Kobe Smith, a junior who is from Compton, had 64 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. And I think Chance Bell could be Greg Bell's brother, as he had 98 rushing yards, 10 carries, and he had 1 touchdown of his own. So, and then eventually Jordan Byrd had a rushing touchdown of his own. He only had 1 carry, but that went for 73 yards. Woof! I'd hate to be Utah State's defense. Good God almighty. Alright, so San Diego State is 2-0. They've held both of their opponents to a whopping 13 combined points, but it's kind of what's expected. Tonight they get a bigger challenge when they play San Jose State. I think San Diego State can win. I definitely think San Diego State can win. San Diego State is favored by 10.5 points, and they start in about 10 minutes. So I think the Aztecs win tonight. I think San Jose State's going to put up a lot more points than UNLV and Utah State combined. But I think San Diego State wins 38-28. I don't know too much about San Diego State. I'm trying to learn more about San Diego State. Trust me. But since they are in SoCal, I gotta talk about them. So, yeah. It's kind of like my relationship with the Padres. Like, they're in SoCal, but I gotta mention them too. And I think I still think San Diego State can win the Mountain West Conference. And I think they can win the Mountain West Conference Championship. They're definitely gonna win their division in the Mountain West Conference. But, well, actually, no, there is no division. Well, there is like a Mountain Division, then a West Division. Either way, I just see Boise State and San Diego State in the Mountain West Conference Championship. All right, now for the true team. Now for the other teams from Southern California. We have Arizona State taking on USC, or USC taking on Arizona State at the Coliseum. USC is a 10.5-point favorite. While I think the Trojans can run the table in the regular season, you need to consider this. Nothing is guaranteed with the Trojans. And Arizona State is pretty good. Jaden Daniels, a Southern California product, should at least turn on Arizona State's offense. Like, I think he's going to be instrumental in ASU's offense. However, I have USC winning. Let's go 38-27. I think USC strikes early and often, and Keaton Slovis is the truth. Like, I definitely think he's going to be a first round pick if he goes to the NFL. When he goes to the NFL. Like, he did so great in his freshman year, and he has a lot of high hopes on him this year. And USC has a lot of high hopes this year as well. And I definitely think the Trojans can run the table. But if there's one or two teams that could probably knock off the Trojans, it would probably be ASU and maybe Washington State. Washington State is not the best team, but one thing the Trojans do struggle with is playing on Friday. And who knows, maybe there might be rain in that game too. So either way, I think those, and then maybe Utah too. I think Utah could give USC a house of horrors too, because I do believe that USC is playing at Utah. Yeah, it's playing at Utah. They meet in 3 weeks. And Utah is a tough place to win at, and we already know how USC fared against BYU last year when they played at BYU. And you never know with the altitude. So I have USC winning, and I have USC going. I have them going 6-0 in the regular season, 7-0 if they can make it to the Pac-12 championship. That's a big if, because Pac-12 games are already being canceled as is. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But now let's talk about the other Southern California team in the Pac-12. UCLA, baby. Now, UCLA opens their season at Colorado. So UCLA plays at Colorado. UCLA is a 6-point favorite. UCLA has not won a season opener since they beat Texas A&M. I think it was back in 2016 or 17. I'm not entirely sure. Colorado, I think, has won the past 5 or 6 season opener games. This game's going to be on ESPN2, mind you. And then the USC-Arizona State game is going to be on at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Good God, they gave us a 9 a.m. game? Christ. As for UCLA and Colorado, it's kind of tough to determine UCLA. The Chip Kelly run offense looks promising. However, how far can that offense really go if you're UCLA? This one's a pick'em game if you ask me. I think UCLA is a good team, but they're slow of season openers is what really concerns me. And then they're playing at Colorado, so I don't know, man. It's tough to see how good UCLA is going to be. I think UCLA can have a promising season, but I don't know. I surely don't see them being in the Pac-12 championship game. I think UCLA gets the victory. I think they win 31-28. I think they kick a game-winning field goal at the end of the game, and then they win, and Chip Kelly streaks. I'm just kidding. Chip Kelly's not going to streak, but I think UCLA wins their season opener, and then it's a good start for the Chip Kelly, not the Chip Kelly era, but the Chip Kelly era part 2, or season 2. As for UCLA's season as a whole, here's the thing about UCLA. I think they have a good squad, but I don't know if it's going to be a great squad. I could see them being Colorado, but next week when they play Utah, I can see UCLA losing that one. Then against Oregon, no. I don't think UCLA has the horses to beat Oregon. I know Oregon lost a lot of players to graduation, but Oregon's just too friggin' good, man. Like, I just don't see it. Then Arizona, I think UCLA beats Arizona, and then I see UCLA losing to Arizona State, and then in their final game against USC, I can see the Trojans beating UCLA. So, again, I don't want that to, like, I don't want the UCLA to be 2-4, but that's just how I see it. I think UCLA has a promising squad, but I think 2-4 is kind of the outlook for UCLA. Like they have a tough schedule, and playing Oregon does not make your schedule a whole lot easier. So, to me, I think that the Bruins are going to struggle early and often. Like, I could see them winning tomorrow's game, but then they're going to struggle against Utah and Oregon, and then they're going to struggle the last part of the season against Arizona State and USC. So, and I definitely think Arizona State is underrated. Like, I think that's the best opportunity, the best chance for any team in the Pac-12 South to knock off USC. And maybe Utah as well, but we'll see. We'll see. So, I have USC and UCLA both getting wins. Hopefully we can see USC or UCLA in the Pac-12 championship game. However, if these Pac-12 games continue to be getting canceled, we might not get a Pac-12 championship game, because the Pac-12 has already canceled 2 games. They canceled Cal and Washington, which I was really looking forward to seeing, and then they also canceled Utah and Arizona. At this rate, the conference might get... One of my friends told me that the conference might not even get 4 games. At best, it's the teams, the conference champions in their respective division will probably be playing 4 games at most, and then no one's going to be eligible for the Pac-12 championship. Like, to me, I'm just really concerned, and the reason why I was so big on the Cal Washington matchup, because I think it would have been the Garbers brothers facing off against each other. Chase Garbers of Cal facing Ethan Garbers of Washington. I don't know if Ethan was destined to start for Washington, but I imagine he might be able to start. It would have been cool because those two are brothers and they're from Southern California. They're from Corona Del Mar and all that. And it would have been cool to see a Garbers versus Garbers matchup, because why not? But unfortunately, and also Cal was kind of my team to win the Pac-12 North. Yeah, I'm already saying this right now, and I already said this on my Twitter account. I had Cal winning the Pac-12 North, even though their game against Washington got canceled. And then I also had USC winning the Pac-12 South, and then I had USC winning the Pac-12 championship, and maybe, just maybe, getting into the college football championship. The problem is for USC is that their strength of schedule would look kind of if you ask me. I mean, I could see Cal beating Oregon, but how high would Cal be when it comes to rankings? And would Cal be ranked ahead of USC? That's the $1 million question. I don't know. It's just food for thought. But again, in order to get to the Pac-12 championship game, every team needs to not postpone a whole lot of their games. So overall, I really don't want to see more of these Pac-12 games being postponed. I don't want to see the Pac-12 have to cancel the rest of the Pac-12 season, because I want to see how good USC is. Like, I want to see how good Keaton Slovis is. And he and was a part of the whole movement of allowing Governor Gavin Newsom to possibly have athletic sporting events being played in Southern California, or California in general. So we'll see. But again, I just want to see some Pac-12 football. Like even if it has to be in the bubble, which I highly doubt they'll be able to do. Like even if USC and UCLA have to play elsewhere, even if they can't have to play at Allegiant Stadium, which I think that's the home of UNLV. Like even if USC and UCLA have to have the Chargers treatment and play every game on the road. But it's kind of too late at this point because USC is playing at the Coliseum this week, so we'll see. But I think that's going to do it for the overall football portion of the show. And I took over an hour. I mean, I kind of killed most of that hour with the Chargers, but I got through an hour of that. Well, let's take ourselves a quick little break, and when we come back, we're actually going to be talking some MLS action, and we'll send everybody on their way. So you're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome in to the Neutral Zone. I'm your host, Robert Kavanaugh, and you're listening to IE Sports Radio. If you like big, nasty hits, if you like slap chop straight to the neck, if you like it when the blood hits the ice and the big boys get down, then this is your show. On IE Sports Radio, this is the Neutral Zone. May our shots on goal always be true and straight to the net. If they are not, may they be followed up, redirected, or change collected. Let's go on IE Sports Radio with me, your host, Robert Kavanaugh, and this is the Neutral Zone.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
And you could check out 3 and Out and all of our other shows here on IE Sports Radio at on platforms such as Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, you name it. And also, before we get back in the show, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Another App Co., the official sponsor of IE Sports Radio. So, Another App Co. is a app company that is located in Corona, California. Big shout to Southern California. And that has created apps such as Mimi, the BS Meter, Facefly, and Poop Shooter. And there's also the Beatbox app as well. Another App Co. starts by building apps they love and shares them with everyone all over the world. You can find them online at www.anotherappcompany.com and in the Google Play Store. coming soon to the Apple App Store. Once again, that is www.anotherappcompany.com. Another App Co. Building apps and sharing them with the world and putting a smile on your face. Now let's get back to the action. So now we're back with segment 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. We're just going to try to breeze through this as quick as possible because I expect to take an hour on the whole football thing. Next week's football portion is going to be a little bit shorter because I won't have to recap the Rams, and hopefully I don't go too much overboard on the Chargers. Kind of tough to not go overboard on the Chargers since they are kind of my team, and it's just so dang frustrating when they freaking have to blow game after game after game. Alright, so now let's wrap this up with some MLS action. So, the LA Galaxy took a loss on Wednesday they didn't lose. They tied with Seattle 1-1. However, they needed to win in order to keep their slim playoff hopes alive. Unfortunately, they didn't. They tied, and they will not be in the postseason, which is sad face. To at least tie Seattle is pretty impressive, but the Galaxy kind of put themselves in this hole. The Galaxy have one more game left, and that is against Vancouver. A lot needed to happen in order for the Galaxy to still be alive going into Sunday's game. The Galaxy needed to have won, and then LAFC needed to beat San Jose, or they also needed LAFC to beat San Jose, and then Colorado to lose to Portland, or Colorado to lose to Portland, and neither of which happened. So, and I think the Galaxy would have been eliminated even if they had lost, or even if they had beaten Seattle, because LAFC lost to San Jose, and then Colorado beat Portland. So it was unfortunate for the Galaxy. But they kind of put themselves in this situation. So tough luck for you all. And you kind of have to wonder what their future is going to be like, because their first priority is probably scrapping their coach. But who do you replace him with? That's the $1 million question. I don't really know, but last week, I do remember that Andrew Hagenbaugh, who hosts the Soccer Scoreboard show, and I definitely recommend that show to you all, said in the chat room that maybe Landon Donovan can be head coach. That wouldn't be a bad idea, but those are just murmurs and rumors. I don't think it could happen, but who knows. Either way, the Galaxy are eliminated from the playoffs contention, and there will not be any postseason this year. So we gotta give the Galaxy their send-off. It's a bummer because I was hoping I would have been great to see the Galaxy in the postseason again, but when they have defensive ineptitude, it's just not good. And that's a recipe for disaster. So now for the other team from Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Football Club, aka LAFC. They lost to the San Jose Quakes 3-2 on Wednesday. Diego Rossi scored late in the game, but it was just way too little, far too late. Jackson Uwiel got a red card for San Jose, but it didn't really matter as Edward Atuesta, Chris Wondolowski, and Christian Espinoza scored for San Jose after Latif Blessing scored for LAFC. So LAFC has one more game left. They play Portland, and currently where LAFC stands is they are 6th in the Western Conference. So they would be on the road against Seattle if the playoffs were to start. So if LAFC really needs to beat Seattle, Portland. Portland is actually number 2, so this could honestly be a playoff preview, depending on what happens with Sporting KC and Seattle. So we'll see, but I really want to see LAFC actually do something in the postseason. Obviously, no one likes LAFC because they're LAFC. But who knows? Maybe they can actually do something, and maybe they can actually not get eliminated in the semifinals or in the quarterfinals like they did in the MLS's back tournament. Either way, I just would like to see LAFC not fall flat on their face. But it's inevitable. They're kind of like the Clippers of the MLS. They have a good season, regular season, and then they eventually wind up falling flat on their face in the postseason. They're kind of like the Peyton Manning of the MLS. So, but we'll see what they can do. They have good offensive firepower. It's just all about their defense, that's all. Hopefully their defense doesn't go full LA Galaxy, but I doubt that happens. So yeah, that's pretty much my little outlook on LAFC. I'll probably have a much more deeper outlook once the postseason starts, and I think this should be the last if we're getting into playoffs, we should be this should be the last string of games, the last string of games until the postseason starts. For those that are curious, the LA Galaxy are 10th in the Western Conference, but no one cares about them. They're out of the postseason. They're not going anywhere. So too bad. So LAFC has to pretty much represent Southern California, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens if they can actually pull it off. We'll see if they can actually pull off the victory, and if they can, cool. If they can't, then c'est la vie. Then we just won't have a champion in the MLS, which would be sad, but at least the Lakers and the Dodgers have won their championships. So there's that. So I think that's pretty much gonna do it. Oh, one more thing before I sign off. There actually is a National Volleyball Association. I know this isn't set point. Okay, who started that? I'm just kidding. So yeah, this isn't set point, but there is actually an NVA, National Volleyball Association, and there's a team, there's two teams from Southern California. There's the Orange County Stunners, and then there's the Los Angeles Blaze. I just noticed the NVA a couple days ago. I'm like, how am I just noticing this now? The nerve of me. And I'm just wondering why I'm just noticing this now. And the the Blaze are somewhat good, while the Stunners are really good. I think the Stunners went 2-0 yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're wrapping up pool play today, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just gonna go to the results page and what's going on, and yes, the Orange County Stunners are 6-0, which is quite impressive. I'm pretty sure this is regarding their the sets they've won, but I don't think the Stunners have played that much volleyball. But either way, the Stunners are a really good team. They do have a former set point guest in Nick Amato, so that's something worth noting. And he's a beast of a player, and it's really cool. So I'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the weekend. I think they have the championship this week. I think this is kind of like a watered down version of the MLS's back tournament. But I will kind of note about the Los Angeles Blaze and the Orange County Stunners, because why not? The Los Angeles Ramblers have some players from Southern California as well, so there's that as well. But to me, I'm going to save the NVA for Tuesday when I do set point. Like that, let's just put it at that. Unfortunately, there's no college sports going on for any other than football. There's no women's soccer or men's soccer or basketball going on. there will be Big West Conference basketball going on in late December, but I already talked about that. So other than that, and other than the NBA's news, one more thing I do got to wrap up on before I send you all on your way is that I have been hearing that the Clippers have been trying to negotiate and get Rajon Rondo on their team. To me, I hope to God the Lakers lock up Rondo and they keep him for a long time, or at least until his career is over, because the Lakers need a great leader such as Rajon Rondo, and they need that finals experience leader such as Rondo. I think Rondo was a big game changer ever since he came back from that, I think it was a wrist injury or a hand injury. Either way, I want Lakers to lock him up and give him like an extended boost. I think they gave him a 1-year deal this past off season, and then this is kind of the final year of his contract. So I really want the Lakers to finalize the deal and lock up Rajon Rondo going forward. So yeah, again, these are just rumors, but it's more than likely possible. One last thing is that Shaquille O'Neal also said that the Clippers need to trade Paul George, that they should trade Paul George, which I kind of find that hard to believe because, again, this is what I heard, but Shaquille O'Neal says the Clippers should trade Paul George if they want to win an NBA title. Well, with how much the Clippers had to give up for Paul George, I don't think the Clippers should give him up. I think until the final portion of his contract, or in a couple more years, that's when the Clippers should trade Paul George. In a couple more years, if the Clippers still can't get to the semifinals, then they may trade Paul George. But they gave up so much to get him. So trading him right away would just be a terrible decision. Again, just food for thought on my part. And apparently the Lakers, this was from a week ago, but I forgot to talk about this last week, but the Lakers were interested in Jordan Clarkson, which I find that hard to believe because Clarkson got traded. Does he really want to come back with the Lakers? Food for thought on my part, so we'll see. And the Los Angeles Rams didn't make any trades during the deadline, and like I said, the Chargers traded away Desmond King for a 6th round pick, so that's pretty much the gist of all the other news going around the NFL or NBA and whatnot. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're listening live, I definitely appreciate you. If you are listening on the replay, I also appreciate you in advance for listening. It really means a lot that you continue to support this show and all the other sports shows on iSports Radio. It really means a lot. Definitely do check out another APCO on iSports Radio and on Twitter and on all of our social media pages. And definitely do check out the iSports Radio gift shop. Get yourself a sweatshirt or a hoodie, as most people call it, because it is getting cold in Southern California. So definitely get yourself an iSports Radio hoodie. We have all sorts of colors. And get yourself a tank top for next summer, unless, of course, it gets hot as of late, but it's not going to get hot because we're approaching wintertime and we should be getting some rain pretty soon as well. So you're more than likely going to get long sleeves or sweaters. So I think that's pretty much going to do it. And without any further delay, it's time to get on out of here because it is pretty much my dinner time and in all sorts of things. So thank you all for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. Big shout to the chat room, being Adam, Andrew, and Marcus for popping in the chat room saying what's up. and interacting with me. It really means a lot, like I said, because you're taking time out of your day, and you are definitely worth my time, and it really means a lot. So for everyone here at iSports Radio and another app company, my name is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have a great day, a great rest of the night, and a great rest of the weekend, and keep yourself sane during these tough times. And more importantly, just remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Have a great rest of the night. See you Tuesday.
Audio Jungle.